Hello guys, welcome to my vlog. So good morning everyone. My name is Cris Sumambot from Crim 1C. Then now I will be talking about the Philippine history. First I will be talking about lesson 1, an introduction to the Philippine historiography, sources and discourses. Based on the discussion I've read, it discusses about the Philippine history. History is the study of past events that happened long time ago. People who write the history and study all the happening in the past are called historians. The purpose of the historians, people, is to organize the difficult happening in the past. They will going to investigate or look for the past happening. Philippine history is important because we need to know better about what's happening. The people who practice the historical writing is called historian. So, the historian will assemble all the information from libraries in making a descriptive and analytical narrative. Also is needed evidence. There's anything that I can see in myself, that is being grateful that we have a history. Because without history, we cannot know what's happening in the past. History is the another way to know much better. It is very important to us. It gives more information to the people, especially to the new generations. For people to know that how life is very hard and difficult. So, makompare nato ang mga nahitabo sa una ug karon. Makompare nato ang naa sa una ug karon. So, in history, there are two general kinds of historical sources. The first is the primary sources. The primary sources is, it refers to the files, physical object, and also oral accounts that made by group or an individual action. The second is secondary sources. The materials that made in these sources is the people being described after the events. Now, in the secondary sources is kuan siya kanang kung kinsa tong tao nga actual na nakakita sa mga panghitabo. Now, the historical narrative relied on the documentary sources. Having several documents gives more knowledge and allow for the present for checking easier. So now let's move on to the lesson 2, History of the Philippine Island. So, based on the discussion I've read about historical Philippine Island, the connection and the role of everyone, it's more talking about the religious and belief, the organization, and also the customs. It gives more information in the past happening. In the island of Luzon have many native black people. Those native people is the barbarians. The Luzon is one of the region where many people. Barbarians refer to uncivilized people. They look like evil and their evil deeds. Pero dili siguro sila kanang basta-basta na mangilabot kung wala nimo hilabti. Mga butan pud guro ni sila, pero kanang ang panglabas lang nila is murag strong kaayo sila. They are the people who were out of town. They stay in a mountain and take a rest under the trees. It depends on the season. They move in another place where they want to take a rest. So, kung asa sila abtan og kakapoy o nagadepende pud sa season kung gusto nila mo lipat-lipat. Nagadepende kung asa sila abton og kakapoy, dito na lang sila magpahinga. So, there's one thing that I can see in myself, that is being pity to them. Their life is very hard because they don't have a house. That's why they stay in a mountain. Even though they would look like a very strong or brave people and a tall, big personality, they have a lot of tattoo in their body. Dagan kay na sila tattoo sa ilang mga kalawasan, mga dagko pagid na nga tao. Dagkog muscle. It is not being difficult to them to sleep in the mountains also. They will not fear to take a rest, but they always a contented person when it comes to their situation. So, siguro na nga, naanad na lang sila sa ilang ginabuhat nga. Kontento na sila kung makatulog sa ilalom sa kahoy. They stay in a mountain and in a harsh nation. They have something to fight for that. No one can stop them. Like in PA or New People's Army, barbarous people have no fear to rest. They also have a leader that can command to their members. These people follow the traditions and costumes of their leader or an ancestor. So naa sila gina-follow nga murag pinuno gud nila. Command sa ila. The natives of this island have a three condition of person. It refers into which the government is divided. Their societal implication is that they possess no fixed house and settlements. Luoy kay sila. Okay, let us continue to lesson 3, the title, the Manongo Jar. So, the topic that being discussed is about the Manongo Jar. It talks more about the information of the Manonggol. A lot of information that being described to the readers. It explains the connection of every structure formed in Manongo Jar. The Manongo Jar is one of the structure that made by the Filipino people. All the information about the Manonggol help us. The Manongo Jar was a perfect illustration of activity. If we can see, the Manonggol is very artistry, structure made by the Filipino people. Manongo Jar is a secondary Boreal jar that existed in the Neolithic period. The decoration impressed to the people because of the uniqueness that's showing. It discovered in a Lipon point of Palawan. Okay, ang kining Manongo Jar is na-discovered siya sa Lipon point of Palawan. The Manongo Jar is made up of clay. It measures more about 51.5 centimeter is the wideness and the height is 66.5 centimeter. The Manongo Jar painted in pure hematite and iron. In the top of the Manongo Jar, there's figure of the two persons. So ang kibalit takip god sa Manongo Jar is napurma siya agkuan, two persons. The person represent the journey of the soul to the afterlife. So naay day meaning atong katong tao nga naa sa taas sa Manonggol. The cover of the Manonggol, there are two figures sitting down while they riding a boat. The first person figure at the back holding a paddle, and the one in front folded her arms in the chest. The two persons clearly formed. The two persons in the top symbolizes two souls on a voyage to the afterlife. Boreal jar signifies the belief of early Filipinos in life after death. The design of the upper portion and the cover of the jar is the curvilinear scroll. The Manongo Jar is known The Manogul Jar is known that the pouch of the human bone. Bro siya kuan, ay butangan na siya sa kanang bukog sa tao. It is a cultural treasure that widely acknowledged. It is one of the item in the National Museum. Makita nato ning Boreal jar sa mga museum, nana siya naka-display. The jar is one of the most important archaeological artifacts that associated with the culture. On 1964 was the first ever excavation that gave way to the discovery of this boreal. Dr. Robert Fox and his team excavating the Tabon Cave Complex. The jar contains the human bone. It shows the Filipino maritime culture and is a paramount that is reflected its ancestors' religious belief. The design of Manongul Jar reflect the artistry of early Filipinos. The design explains as sea waves. The early Filipino believed that a man is composed of a body. It features three phases, that is the soul, the boatman, and the boat itself. Only the Manogul Jar tells how important the waters to the ancestors. Before the social media, the water gives the information and communication to our ancestors. So, sa una is, ang tanawan lang sa mga ancestors is kanang ang tubig. Pero karon, ang tubig as kanang murag didto ang makita nila ang mga information. Kuan na sila og kuan sila og communication through water. About the Laguna copper plate. I'm gonna show you an ancient art from pre-colonial, which is the Laguna copper plate inscription. The discussion I've read was all about the inscription copper plate. It is a sheet of copper metal with ancient writing. The Laguna copper plate inscription was written in the past years ago. It is very important history of the Philippines. This object discovered in the year 1987. It measures about 7.9 inches and it is a thin piece of copper. It is also the earliest evidence for written literature in the history. The copper plate inscription is a sheet of a metal. It discovered in the province of Laguna. This province is located to the east of Manila, the capital of the Philippines. The Laguna copper plate inscription is the name of an inscription written on an artifact during the 10th century. Artifact is a great significance for the understanding of the history. In the Southeast Asia, scholars they believe that the area was isolated. The artifact was discovered in the Lumbang River during the dredging operation and it was found by the dredger worker. It is located in the province of Laguna. The inscription was written in Old Malay by using the Kawi script. The copper plate had certain characteristics that may lead to the scholars to achieve. The inscription is heavily influenced linguistically by Sanskrit, Old Malay, and Old Javanese. Anton Postma is a Dutch specialist. in the ancient Philippines. Anton revealed that the inscription on the Laguna copperplate is incomplete. Postma said that he saw a similar piece of copperplate with inscription. In the year 1990, the text translated was also known as the Laguna copperplate inscription. Dr. Johann D. Capares confirmed the Sanskrit and Old Javanese. It is the official document that provides enough information for scholars also provide materials. Let us continue to Lesson 5, Duties of the Katipunan of the Sons of the People, o KKK. So, based on the discussion, it discussed about the mission of KKK, the difference of the Masonic Credo and Bonifacio Decalogue. The Decalogue is one of the inscribed monuments that the Creator extols charity and love for one's fellow. So, ang Decalogue is naglaman siya og kuan kaning monuments. I think there's a thing that I can see in myself. Past years ago, I am a DYA president in our JKK. Being a leader, I do anything to show to my members that we should have a unity, also the love that surround. It is very impressive that you can see the youth with love, unity, and peace to everyone. I feel so grateful and blessed. The Decalogue is published during the lifetime of Bonifacio. The format of the Decalogue comes from the Old Testament and have a content that is the Programa Masonica and Código Masonico. This explains that the Creator exalts the direction and extols charity, love to the members. All their moves can be guided by such reason. If their members can break a rule or their obligation, there's a punishment that they could need to receive. The Masonic Credo, they foster charity and philanthropy among free men of good standing, and they establish the organization that the first to involve is the men. The word that struck me or affect me the most is the fraternity, because fraternity is not good for the youth. Fraternity can cause death to the people who will not survive. There's a big impact to the life of a people. The Decalogue gives clear information that the country liberate from enslavement. Let's proceed to the Philippine source book. Topic 1, the first. I choose the first people of Sulu. So, based on the text I've read, it discussed about the happening in the Sulu and the first people of Sulu. The story tells that there are 5 people escaped from the place where the war happened. They landed in the island of Sulu that no one people are lived. So, murag napadpad gud sila sa Sulu nga pati ang Sulu walay tao bisag isa. While they watched around the island, they heard a voice of a wild horse and wild carabao. In the same country, there's another war happened. There's another women escaped from the war. They met together and lived together. So, naay isa ka babae nga sa ilahang lugar is naa gihapon war. Ang kana na babae is ni-escape gihapon siya sa ilahang lugar o niadto siya sa Sulu. Dito na sila nagkamit atong 5 men nga ninscape gihapon sa war sa ilahang lugar. So, all of them is 10. The 2 men search a country that has populated. Ang duha ka lalaki sa ila is kanang nangita o kanang lugar nga naay mga tao. The rest they go to the sea for them to get a food that they will eat. So ang uban is naalang sa dagat nangita og kanang seafoods nga ilahang makaon. There is a thing that I can see in myself, that is being strong, because I believe that everything's happened for a reason. So don't forget that God is always here for us. He gave me strength to be alive, and trusting Him is very grateful. So, wala joy imposible kung magtuo ta ug mosalig ta sa Ginoo. It is present up until now because there's a time that I'm so down and I decided to surrender, but suddenly God reminds me to stand up and He teach me how to be strong. So, when their boat can't move, they go to the forest to get a wood. But there's no wood. They saw a bamboo. That's why the man decided that he will cut a bamboo. While he starts to cut a bamboo, he heard a voice. He stopped to cut it. He chose another bamboo to cut. So, ang isa ka lalaki is, wala man sila nakit-an nga wood, ang ila lang nakit-an is bamboo. So, ang lalaki is, gisugdan niya og putol ang bamboo, og sa dihang naay nagtingog. Mao't wala niya gituloy. Niadto siya sa isa ka bamboo para katunon lang ang putlon. So, while he cut it, there's no voice he heard. Wala na siya nadunggan nga tingog. The bamboo fell slowly down and he split it after. When he split it slowly, he discovered beautiful women inside this. So, pagkaputol sa bamboo, iyang gipikas ug sa dihang naay isa ka very beautiful woman nga naa sa sulod di ay sa bamboo. That girl is the life of prophet. Siya do itong isa ka prophet. The men decided to make their home for their settlements together with a girl. They loved each other. The couple had children. So nagkaroon sila og anak. Their 7 children is the firstborn in Sulu. I am so impressed because people in Sulu, they will never surrender to their situation. They still alive even though the food that they eat is gathered from what they found in the forest. So, we are here in topic 2, Customs of the Tagalog. So, the discussion is talking about the work of Juan de Prasencia, that is the customs of the Tagalogs. On 16th century, Juan de Plasencia was born. He is the Franciscan missionary in Luzon. He also acknowledged as the founder of numerous towns by using the method. Juan de Plasencia is the first group of Franciscan missionaries and the author of the books on language. On July 5, 1578, he arrived the island. Juan de Plasencia is made the customs of the Tagalogs. This customs was written on the year 1589, and it is written during the Spanish colonial period. The customs of the Tagalogs was intentionally provide an description of the Tagalog natives. Plasencia contained their observations and judgments. In the work of Plasencia, the people always have a chief called Datos. He is the one who documented the customs and traditions of the colonized. There's one thing that I can see in myself, that is being grateful, because at this time, I've got the information about the work of Plasencia. I am aware what they did do to someone that can spoke. Chiefs corresponded to their knights, the nobles, commoners, and slaves is the three caste. The nobles were the free-born called Maharlika. These people did not pay tax to the Datu, but they involved in war. The Maharlikas had children by slave women. The slave women was compelled. If two persons got married, of whom one was a Maharlika and the other was a slave, it results that children will be divided. The children will divided when the married woman and the other village is pregnant. Children will be divided equally to the two barangay. This talking about the everyday living of the Filipinos. So let's move on to topic 3, Album de Filipinas, Biblioteca Nacional de España. The topic discussed about the Album de Filipinas, Biblioteca de España. The Album de Filipinas, published by Esther Almina. The album is the collection of photographs in the late 19th century in the Philippines. Biblioteca de España is the largest public library in Spain. It began as the Place Library by the King Philip V. It was also founded by King Philip V. The Biblioteca Nacional de España is located in Madrid on the Paseo de Recoletos. The Biblioteca de España is opened to the public at the same building. The building dates from 1866 and it was the first offer to the public. The photographs consist of 17 portraits and 40 landscape. In Manila, the photographs offer a rich source of pictorial information. Also, the album provides the supplementary pictorial sources on the Philippines. There's one thing that I can see in myself, that is being impressed to them, because they have libraries and the photographs inside during the 19th century. The Manila colonial modernity can be interrogated through the innovative structure that being introduced. The album aid discuss the Philippine history of disaster through photos. Let us continue to the topic 4. Andres Bonifacio, Pag-ibig sa Tinubuang Bayan. The discussion I've read is talking about the Andres Bonifacio, Pag-ibig sa Tinubuang Bayan. Andres Bonifacio and Emilio Jacinto is the statement maker. They an author. There's a work of Andres Bonifacio and Emilio Jacinto that is being identified. When they read the work of Bonifacio. Bonifacio said to his work that the Filipino will be unite and fight for the independence and freedom of everyone. On March 1896, the first edition of Freedom is being published. There's one thing that I can see in myself, that is being brave, because all of us will have a right to fight what is our right. I will fight what is being mine until now it is present. I will fight for the freedom because everyone has a freedom. The Pag-ibig sa Tinubuang Bayan is the work of Andres Bonifacio. Andres Bonifacio wrote that story. Jose Santos republished the story of on 1935. Jose Santos is the historian and he is the son of De Los Santos. Recently, there's another version of story that discovered in Archivo General Militar de Madrid. They differentiate the different version of story. The first version is the version of Santos and the second version is the version of Madrid. This version provide that Andres Bonifacio is made that story. The story composed of 28 stanza that fighting for the freedom of their own country. So